Alright, let's take a break from the PvP showcase of Ikki and we'll take a look at his PvE usage. Spoiler alert, there's not much going on, but I've decided to showcase him in Dark Starlord because there's 3 enemies and he is a unit that is dependent on the enemies taking a turn rather than him taking the turn himself. Again, he's not going to be the best in Dark Starlord, but this is one of the bosses that you can run him, but other 4 stars will be better than him. But for those who are skeptical, if you're thinking of summoning him for PvE, then this video is going to be for you, right? So I've decided to run him with Shenpin. He's getting the horse buff, and you'll see that he's not really going to do much for the team. He does pretty good damage on his turn, but again, other 4 stars, like 4-star Espers, can outshine him because he's not really providing you much during his turn. His S1 only does damage and buff steal, and that's pretty much it. And because these bosses, you don't really want them to take the turn that much, you want to be taking these turns, right? So he doesn't really get the moon stacks that fast. I think in this fight I only got like to 12 stack once, which is extremely slow, right? You want to be getting the 12 stacks frequently, but since the enemies are not taking enough turns, you're not really utilizing his passive that much. Yeah, see, he's only at 3 stacks of moon stack, and now I'm stunned, but it's fine because he's gonna cleanse that, and then he does his buff strip, but you cannot control the boss, so he doesn't do anything. Yeah, he's not really gonna do much. Even with the horse buff, he doesn't really provide much for the team because he's only gonna spam his S1, which it does pretty decent damage, but not anything crazy. And I just want to see how much damage he does on his 12 stacks nuke, but it's gonna take a while. I'm probably not even gonna get it. We're only at 6 stacks and the turn is already half gone. Okay, let's see his nuke. AoE nuke right here, 177k, not that much. You can use any other 4-star DPS and you'll get that nuke on their S3 much more frequently, especially when you're using Sachiko to reduce the cooldown. You can max HP cap the 2 adds, but reducing their max HP cap is actually not good for you because all of the debuffs will be gone. You will kill them faster, so yeah, see, the debuffs will be gone. And yeah, I mean, his passive does pretty decent damage, like 17,000, but it's nothing insane. Okay, we're pretty close to 12 stacks with defense break on the boss. Okay, 181,000. Yeah, it's not that good. 181,000 for only 1 trigger, where you can get like Chloe that can do like 500,000 within 1 nuke, that can do it 3 to 4 times within 1 run. It's not really worth it to run him in bossing type contents because it's dependent on the enemies taking a turn rather than him taking the turn. His PvE usage will come from his R2 when he gets the moon stacks when he casts his S1, right? But without his R2, he's much worse at PvE than even Tolan, because Tolan you can still run for like speedruns and stuff. This guy you can't even run for speedrun, you can't even run for bossing contents. His damage, again, not that much, 1.5 million. And I'm also getting the horse buff from Shenpin, and only getting 1.5 million is kinda low. Now you might think because his Divinate has disease debuff that he could be good for Phobetor. Let me tell you right now, he's not gonna be good because there's one major reason to it. Okay, right here, let's take a look. He gets his turn, he gets disease debuff, but he also gets the buff. See? Because the disease debuff only procs after Phobetor does his attack. So now he has the damage taken reduced and also damage ignore defense, and he's gonna one-shot my unit the next turn. But at most with this team you can probably get to like 4 million. He's not really gonna contribute much to the team, yeah, not even 3 million. And we just get one-shotted. We can't even get to 12 stacks on his passive because it's a turn, it's based on the enemy's turn, right? Not your turn. Yeah, he's very bad in bossing contests, just don't use him. Okay, I'm gonna try him out in Infinity Tower 10 in this team. I've taken all of the debuffs and then I'm just going to fully auto the fight and we'll see how that works. This is pretty much a PvP team. My Mavis cannot die, but one of the debuff is that they will cleanse 1 debuff, and that's going to be problematic because if they cleanse the silence from my Archibald, then I'm kind of screwed. There we go. cleanses the stuff, and yeah, it's gonna be really problematic. I mean, I can slowly kill them off, but there's a Tolan in the boss fight, so if he 0 hours my Mavis, then I'm kinda screwed. My Jinsu has buff block, so I'm no longer getting the shield on Mavis, and I'm probably just going to die right here. Yeah, I don't think this team is gonna work. You're better off using like AP controls and stuff like that, because even like this debuff is not annoying at all because you can AP control them. But if you AP control them, then Ikki is not really gonna do anything for you. You need the enemies to move for him to proc his passive, right? And if you AP control them, then then the enemies are not gonna move, which means you're not gonna trigger Ikki's passive. So it's pretty much useless. You're better off running anything else in that spot. Let me just try to run like Infinity 9, where he can maybe work. The debuff is not that annoying, so maybe this one can do it. And I have to make my team super slow, because if I make them fast, he's gonna cycle way too much and the enemies aren't gonna cycle, right? Again, he is very dependent on whether the enemies take a turn or not. If he's the one taking the turn, he's not gonna be providing that much. My Archibald is pretty much carrying at this point because he's doing like max HP damage to the enemies whenever they move. Okay, so one thing I just realized is that his passive retains throughout the fight, which means if he is at like 4 stacks in the previous wave and then you go to the second wave, he has like 4 stacks in the second wave. So yeah, alright, my entire team is dead. Like, this is why you should just go for like stun espers or AP controlling, because if you let the enemies move, this is what's gonna happen. You just get one-shotted by the enemy, right? And I'm probably gonna lose this one as well. So he's not good in bossing contents, he's not good in Infinity Tower. Again, he's pretty much a PvP exclusive unit until we get like a trial that takes a bunch of turns. Like the old trials where we had like 5 enemies, 1 boss and then 4 fodders, he could be good for that one because they cycle really fast as well, right? But for now, the event trials that we get are just like very slow, and you want to kill them as fast as possible rather than like a bossing type boss. He's not really good for, you know, wave clearing type of content. We still managed to win, but it's very slow. You can probably get like a team that can clear within a minute on auto. Let's take a look at the damage. Okay, he's doing like insane damage, 600,000. Archibald is also putting in work, pretty much like 4 DPS in the team with 1 support. Alright, this is my current Shadowglow team. It scores around 27, 30 million, something like that. Sometimes it does drop below 25 million. Okay, there we go, 28 million. I'm just gonna remove Chalmers and put him in. Chalmers was doing something for the team. When Chalmers is low HP, he will boost the team's damage. But this guy is pretty much doing nothing for the team. Again, you won't even proc his second part of his passive. Yeah, wow, not even like 20 million. His passive is pretty much going to be useless. It does do damage to the boss, but it's not really gonna provide you with anything else, right? It does like 15k, but the boss doesn't take that many turns. It's only the boss, the shadow bosses will only take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 turns. That's it, which means you can't even proc his second part of his passive, that he gets the attack buff and crit damage buff, right? And yeah, that's pretty much all he's gonna do, like 5k damages now, because multi-hits do less damage as well. He's doing pretty much nothing for the team. Yeah, he's doing like 13,000 damage on his S1. A 3-star Esper, Chalmers is better than him in Shadowglow and pretty much every other bosses as well. He doesn't really see any use in the shadow bosses because, again, he relies on the enemies taking a turn, but the shadow bosses will only take 6 turns in total. After 6 turns, the battle just ends. You do your damage during your turn, right? Not during the enemy's turn. So yeah, it's pretty much useless here. Now, the only place that I thought he was going to be good in, which is Sonic Rift, turns out he is also not good for this one. So if you guys don't know, if you run Donar in this team right here, you will bypass one of the speed mechanics that this guy has, and he puts up this shield, which is very annoying. You need to do 7 attacks. But if you have Donar in the team, he will bypass this by getting the first action and then removing the speed buff of this guy. I recommend you checking out the video I made on this one. This guy has a similar ability in which he starts off with the Envious Moon, and if he has that Envious Moon buff, he will do an action which is putting a stealth buff on himself. So he should function just like Donar, right? But he only works for the first wave, unfortunately. His animation kicks in on the first wave right here, which means that's the first action and Mine Armor gets to move first. But the subsequent waves, he doesn't apply his animation anymore, which means he's not doing the first action. So on the third round or third wave, this guy gets to move, and I cannot bypass the shield anymore. Without this guy, Mine Armor doesn't get the first turn in the first wave because this guy is faster, so he gets the first turn and then Mine Armor moves. But if I have him in the team, he will play his animation by putting a stealth buff on himself, so that's an action taken, and that's going to remove this guy's speed buff. So yeah, Donar is just going to be better than him in Sonic Rift as well, because Donar does his animation or action at the start of every wave rather than him at the start of combat, right? So yeah, if I had Ikki right here, my armor wouldn't have moved because that guy would have taken a turn. Again, if you don't understand what I'm talking about, I recommend you checking out the video I made. And yeah, that's about it. His PVE viability is pretty much 0, worse than Tolan, worse than Ana. He is PvP exclusive until you get him to R2. So his R2 is activates 1 stack of Waxing Moon for Ikki after attacking, and that's on his S1 passive right here. So when you get him to R2, he can be useful for PvE. You just build him fast, and then you can spam his S1, gain a bunch of these stacks right here. You can even put him on relief, and he could start spamming his S1, and then also start spamming his passive damage, right? But before R2, he is pretty much useless in PvE. And yeah, that's about it. Ciao.